for joining me for another episode of YQG in Bloom. My name is Tracy Martins, and today I have one of my best friends, Jake, from Instagram's Made In YQG.
Hello, I came to look at. How are you?
Look everywhere. I'm so happy we're finally doing this. It's about time.
It's been a while. We were gonna do it a long time ago, and then
life.
Yeah.
And things coming up in Windsor, Essex, and it's just kept us busy.
Yeah, of course.
And just so you guys know, this is almost our 1 year anniversary of knowing each other.
Yeah. Should we address the elephant in the room real quick?
Okay.
Yeah, it's just you. That's it.
I am the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And
you're not my grandma.
No.
What's the story behind that?
We were at the Mom Expo last year at Kubota Club.
Yes.
And we were getting some kind of weird looks because there's a little bit of an age difference.
Yeah.
So he started telling everybody that I was his mom. And then I said, well, we should really mess with people and walk back around holding hands. But then he didn't want to call me mom because it was disrespectful to his mom.
Yeah. So I kind of had to do a separation there. Yeah.
I had to become grandma. And the sad thing is even his mom calls me grandma.
Yeah. So we were at Salute for the first influencer event we went to. Kathleen organized it. It was like this food thing where we're, meeting up with a whole bunch of creators.
But you didn't want to go because you hadn't shown your face.
Yeah.
Had we done the downtown market yet?
I had one face video on Instagram at that point, and it was a very half a second clip. If you watched it, you would have missed it.
I was going through some of the ones from the very beginning where you just had your logo as your face.
Yes, all my stuff from before is archived, thank God, so nobody can see it. But the Salute La Salle thing was where the whole grandma thing started. Yeah. For sure. Because everybody was asking, oh, what's everybody do? And what's your page on Instagram? Let's follow each other or whatever. And I was like, actually, I don't have an Instagram. I'm just with my grandma for some free food, right? And it just kind of spread. So after that event, people just in earshot heard oh, that's my grandma and whatever. And they're like, oh, that's cool. So then it just spread. Now everybody thinks it. We can't escape it.
Well, it is funny. It's hilarious. I don't mind it whatsoever because
It's endearing.
It is.
And I mean it in a loving way. Yeah.
I know. The sad part is that some people believe it.
Of course.
It's come on. Do I look old enough to have a 26, 27-year-old grandson?
No comment, but yeah.
Piss off. I'm trying to not use potty mouth today.
Oh, is John going to edit swear?
No.
No? He's going to leave it all in?
We're going to.
Well, fuck you then.
It's us. People know.
Yeah.
People know.
I think they expect it. Yeah.
Okay, so since we've kind of got a little bit of us out of the way, how long have you had the Made In YQG?
The page, I made the account in 2020, and I didn't really touch it until 2022, something like that. It was late December 2022 where I posted my first thing, and it was just a Canva thing with a logo and a stupid description that was hey, I'm supporting local. And then a couple months after that, I never posted again after that. And then it just kind of I think it was April in 2023 that it really started to kind of pick up with the markets because it was my first time ever going to the downtown farmers market. I went to my first market at the WFCU Center, and then that's kind of when it all started. But September is when it really started to pick up, and that's kind of where I tell people I started was September because it's when I consistently started uploading on it.
Because I know we've run into some people and they'll say, well, you've been around forever, and it's
The problem is, so I had the page for a while, and the engagement was good on it, right? I had a small following, but I had a text list that would do giveaways for people and stuff like that. So people knew me from that, and they were like, oh, it's the giveaway page or whatever. So kind of branching out of that was a little bit of a struggle. But then once I just started doing content with me in it, everybody just kind of adjusted to that and kind of forgot about all the other stuff.
Well, because that's how we met is you reached out to me for giveaway for concert tickets.
Yeah, for the casino tickets. Yeah. I saw your podcast, and I was around the time where I was just sponsoring local giveaways just for local businesses and stuff. And I had access to a bunch of casino concert tickets that I never use. I just don't like concerts, so I just was how can I use this in a way that's beneficial to someone? Because I'm just gonna waste them, So basically what I did was just reach out to people and be like, hey, I've got these tickets, like, you know, we'll make a post that says like, follow your account, follow this guy's account, and, you know, we'll do a pair of tickets or whatever. And that's the same thing I did with you.
Yeah.
And then I ended up meeting you for the mom market, which was the first market we went to, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. We did the mom market, and then we went to like the farmer's market the next day. And then
Yeah, and because I was looking through that, and I think Shelby, my stepdaughter,
I remember this very well.
I saw that picture of
with
the flowers.
I was dating a girl.
He was dating somebody?
She was very upset because I said I was going to the downtown farmer's market with Tracy, my 65-year-old grandma. And then the picture I posted on my Instagram page was her stepdaughter's hands. So my girlfriend at the time was like, what the fuck's going on? And I was like, I'm just with my grandma at the market. Like, she just brought some
Those aren't
people.
her hands.
Yeah, she just brought people with her, but that wasn't even the most disastrous market with her. So I'll take it as a blessing that that was all she said about the flowers.
Let's see here. Let's find out about you.
Me?
Yeah,
Is this
before
therapy?
Yeah, tell me about you.
Oh, okay. About me. What do you want?
Before Made In YQG.
What do you want to know?
Okay, now I do know that you dropped out of school.
Yes.
Why?
Why do you know that?
Well, because you tell me things. I'm grandma.
We should preface it that you do know a lot about me.
Yes.
So going into this interview,
This was honestly was the hardest interview that I had to prepare for, because there was some interviews that I didn't really want to do because I wasn't familiar with the product, their job. You are the hardest because I know so much about you. So it's like, okay, what do I ask? Where do I start?
Even when we were trying to like put notes out of like, oh, what people want to know
all
about
over
me,
the place.
You were like, oh, sometimes I talk to people about something and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And it's like, oh, because it's like, he told me that,
Well,
but like it's
Nina.
not. Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, you are super, super close with Nina. And it's like, really?
Surprise.
You didn't know?
I just have surprises everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I dropped out of high school at the time. Very sad. I was taking care of my stepdad at the time that was dying of bone cancer. That was kind of rough. So I ended up leaving school and I never went back. So basically I lived in my room for 4 or 5 years playing video games. And I made a living playing video games. I basically kind of started an online business where you could sell the online currency of the game. And I just kind of built my love for business over that. And that's how I kind of got started with just business and, you know, finance and just doing something, right? Because before that, like, it was like school and home and being depressed. And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, I can actually make money doing stuff online and whatever, right? The problem is my social anxiety at the time got so bad that like I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't look anybody in the eyes. My mom would try to take me to restaurants and I couldn't order my own food, you know? So she was thinking, like, what's the place where there's something going on all the time? Like, it doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the night and I need, like, some type of, like, stimulation or whatever.
Yeah.
And the only place she could think of was the casino because it's just open all night. Like, you know, if I needed out of the house or whatever, because I used to go for, like, walks at nighttime and just kind of disappear. And she goes, well, anytime you feel like that, let's just go to the casino and we'll, like, go grab food, grab coffee, just walk around, whatever. That turned into a whole other story where, you know, I started going at first. We went on my 19th birthday, basically. It was like fresh, you know, being able to go. We ended up going for dinner, I would say probably twice a week there. We'd go for coffee there probably every day just to, like, you know, do something and get me out of the house, yeah. And then it kind of became my home. I did have savings at the time from the money that I was making online, and I had nothing to do with it. Like, I had no concept of what money was because, like, I, you know, lived at my mom's house. Like, I had no responsibilities, right? So I didn't really know the value of money at that time. And
well, what 19-year-old really does.
Yeah. But more so, like, I was so isolated at that point. It was like I had this number in a PayPal account, but I had no clue what it, like, did. You know what I mean? Looking back, I'm like, holy shit, like, how was I so, you know, out of it, right? But at the time, like, you know, going to the casino every day, I kind of started gambling here and there, tables, slots, just kind of whatever, just to waste time. It was a good time waster. And that's the one thing that I liked about that place is just you could literally make a day disappear if you wanted to, right? That day turned into making 3-4 years disappear, which was, you know, fine, you know.
And he really did live at the casino.
I did. Yeah. That's one question I get asked a lot because I kind of throw it out randomly in conversation sometimes.
And people think you're just exaggerating. Yeah, he was just there a lot. He literally...
I lived there, yeah. I basically stayed there 6 days a week. I would go home to my mom's house like one day out of the week just to do laundry and catch up and whatever and head back, you know? And it's something I brush over because it's like something I try deeply to just kind of like leave in the past and like kind of move on from that. But it's still an interesting part of my story. So I like to try to mention it to people when it's relevant.
I would never brush over that because that's what brought you out of your shell and
that's why
where
I'm here
you
today.
are now.
Absolutely. That's why I don't regret it at all. I do look back and I'm thinking like, there's so many other things I could have been doing. But in the headspace I was at the time, there's nothing I would have been doing other than that, except for sitting in my room doing nothing and rotting away, right?
Playing video games and looking at a growing PayPal account that probably had more money than mine.
At the time, like even gambling high limit at the casino all the time, like I didn't realize that that wasn't normal. Because I just went into it, fresh 19-year-old, like I started off small, like I wasn't gambling too big, right? And then I got involved with a group who was notorious for gambling like, you know, big money. And I would just kind of sit around and watch them. I never participated for a while. That was my social circle. Like that was the people I went and hung out with, right? Yeah. And then you just kind of get like sucked into it, right? And then it was like all of a sudden, like, you know, you look back and you're like, oh, one hand of blackjack is like a year's salary for some people or whatever. And it's just disgusting, you know? Yeah. And it's like, but at the time I didn't realize that. And that's what makes me so uncomfortable now is because I was just so like disassociated from everything. And still to this day, like I'm very numb to everything. Like especially regarding money or like belongings, that type of thing. You even have firsthand account of that. We were at the casino and I won a jackpot and I was
just going to say that he's just sitting there hitting the button, and me and my husband were all excited because, ooh, I won $100 and he's $6,000 waiting for the
security escort to pass the cash in a big duffel bag.
And I'm like literally shitting my pants and he's just like, okay.
So you know why I was frustrated? I really wanted a coffee, but I couldn't leave because I wasn't going to have them just show up with a stack of money and I wasn't there.
Oh, you know, I was taking that and running.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. I give you, what, $10? I bought you a coffee afterwards.
Yes.
It was a fair trade.
Yes. Yeah. He got $6,000. I got a coffee. We're
even. Yeah, going back to the whole casino thing, like it's something I try to brush over because like it's not something I'm proud of, right? Like it's a part of my story, but it's not something I'm like actively telling people to like participate in, right?
No.
And even you, like you can say like anytime we've been in the casino, I actively tell you not to gamble, right? Oh. Because it's like at my point with the whole living there or whatever, I never had someone to tell me not to. And I always had the influence of like, oh, it's just like, you know, better than you being, you know, stuck in the thing. And that's not my mom's thing or like anything like that. No. It was just like they were happy that I was like living for the first time, right? But I don't want my friends to go through that, right? No. So it's like even when we go to the casino, I'll be like, we'll go for dinner, like, you know, whatever, and then we're leaving, right? Because I'm just like, I don't want to get people sucked into it. And that's why even I felt bad with the jackpots when you guys were there, because I was like, it gives you that weird excitement where you're like excited to see it and you kind of want to play and like that type of thing.
Oh, I've hit 1,400 once or twice, 400 here or there. So, I mean, and that was just when me and John would go for walks. I was like, let's go and get a coffee at the Starbucks at the time at the casino. But I mean, I wouldn't gloss over it or even feel bad about it because, we've all done sticky things back in our 19-year-old time frame and, you know, things we're not proud of. But at the end of the day, it got you out of your room. Yeah. And it gave you a little bit of life. And it did afford you some savings to figure out what you wanted to do. So it's not like you lost your... You lost everything.
Even to this day, like the reason where I am right now is because of that whole experience.
Exactly. So it's
like
a good
the first like main job I ever got was because of a connection I made there in the high limit room where they were like, "Hey, we need someone." Like I was like, I have no clue what I'm doing. Like I'm just some kid, you know, plays way too much money at tables. And he goes, it's okay. I trust you. Like, you know, whatever. And that was how I got my first like big job. Right. And then it was that reference. Like I ended up getting laid off from that job, you know, at the beginning of the pandemic. But that was the one that got me to where I am now and where I'm going next. And, you know, it was just, it kind of all spiraled and like dominoed from like this start of just I don't know, connections and networking.
That's the next thing is, okay, you dropped out, you took care of your family, and ended up with the agoraphobia and the social anxiety and that. And then you went and lived at the casino. What happened when the pandemic hit?
That was rough.
Yeah.
And that almost, this is going to get depressing. That was almost the end for me, because I went back to the worst place in my life, was just being lonely in my house again, right? And I think the memories of just being in that house to begin with and like being so sad in the same room, it was like when I got kicked out of the hotel, I was literally in the buffet when they let me know, hey, like you got to leave the hotel at, I think it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. They're like, you have to be out at 6. And I'm like, where am I going? You know? So I was like, okay, back to my mom's house, you know? And then it was straight back into the room that like had so many dark memories of like trying to just get through the day, right? So it's like when the pandemic hit, like I was just looking for anything to kind of distract myself, right? And I ended up making an Instagram page that wasn't Made in YQG. It was like a fashion page or something. I was just trying.
A fashion page?
I'm not, yeah. I was just clinging on to like anything I could to try to like find a passion. Because up until that point, like my whole personality was, oh, he's the casino guy. There was no other substance to my personality besides, oh, he's just like the high roller that everybody knows and like waves to, right? Nobody kind of knew like, you know, anything else more about me, and neither did I, right? And that's what I struggled with at the beginning of the pandemic, because it was like, I don't know who I am. Like, because for 3, almost 4 years before that, I was just the guy who, you know, went and played tables, and that was it. Like, that was my whole life. Like, I did nothing but gamble for those years. And like, I did work remotely at the time, right? But it was such a small fraction of like what I was doing at the time that it was literally just that, right? So I had no time for passions or like finding hobbies. Like I didn't go to school, obviously, so I didn't play sports or like anything like that, right? And the only like hobby I had was video games, which I used as kind of like a depression crutch for so many years that I didn't want to go back to that in the pandemic. And I think there was a very small period at the beginning of the pandemic where I started playing video games again. And then I realized that it was like putting me back in that weird place of like, I'm just using this as a distraction and I'm gonna like crumble, you know? So I ended up bringing 2 books actually. So I ended up making a fashion page on Instagram, and it was just, I wasn't necessarily interested in fashion, but I was around a lot of luxury fashion, luxury watches. Like I was just mesmerized by that. Like I remember the first time someone showed me, it was a Jacob & Co watch, and it was like, I think they said like $1 million or something. And it was this cool, it's called an Astronomia. It's like this big round dome thing.
Man.
It's a craziest thing ever. It's got like gems in it, and it's an earth that kind of revolves around, and then there's a big like diamond that kind of circles. And it was my first time that I was like, holy shit, like this is, you know, whatever. So at the time, like the little hype fashion was really in, where people were wearing all Louis Vuitton and all this fancy stuff and flexing on Instagram and whatever. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, okay, well, I don't have a gambling addiction now because the casino's closed. So maybe I can get into like clothes or whatever. Turns out I just like wearing stupid Crocs, and like I'm not really much of like a fashion person. I don't have style, you know?
Same here.
But I had a personal Instagram at the time where I did post casino pictures here and there, but it was mostly just for like, you know, friends. Until I made that fashion page. And then I just started randomly adding people for some reason. And I came across this person. He did like magazine type of things. He's an artist. He's a photographer. He writes poetry, that type of stuff. And that was actually kind of what started my whole local support journey. This artist isn't local. Can I grab it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just grab your.
Yeah. So these were the magazines that I found through making a fashion Instagram. So this was the first one I bought, right?
And I haven't seen these yet, so.
No, this was a surprise, and I've never told anybody about this. But I keep these books on my desk, and it's just a nice reminder of like how I got started with this, right? So I remember seeing this person on Instagram who, they make little magazines with their photography, and then they'll do, you know, poetry and stories.
Oh, those are pretty.
Yeah. So you can see there's like, so this was the first one I ever bought. And the thank you letter is kind of what started this whole thing.
Jake, thank you for supporting independent.
It says, Jake, thank you for supporting independent art and giving me a chance to connect with you, Emmett.
That's so sweet.
So just seeing that, like, I want to say this was $15, okay? It was just something on Instagram. The guy was, saying he made a couple, I think he said something about maybe they weren't selling or something like that. And I was like, I'll buy one, because I liked his pictures he posted on Instagram at the time. And I was like, what's the worst that can happen? It's $15, like. And then just having the note in the back, it was like that little personal touch that like local businesses talk about all the time, where it's like they do a handwriting or whatever.
Yeah.
And it actually matters, because this is literally what set this whole thing off, was just this little stupid note that said, thanks for letting me connect with you. I want to say this was in 2019 that I bought this one. So before the Made in YQG page, which I made in 2020. This one was from 2020, I believe. And I got another handwritten letter from it.
Aw.
So I want to show a couple pictures from this one, because you can kind of see how his artwork evolved over time.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. There is this very, very long page that meant a lot to me at the time. This. I'm not reading the whole thing, but I will take a picture of it and put it on my Instagram story, because just reading this was very securing for me at the time. And it was just something I needed to hear in the pandemic. And it was really, thoughtful and life-changing, which kind of prompted me to buy his second book when he put it out, which was more of like a photography type of magazine. There was less writing in this one, but his vision was to go for more of like, it's called Late Bloomer for Stress. So he basically wanted to make something where it was like peaceful images,
And those are pretty.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of them. I don't know if the camera can see them all, but they're very nice. Anyways, I got this other handwritten letter, and this time it was more than 2 sentences. So this was a little bit later than I expected. So this one got shipped out in May 30th of 2021, so still during the pandemic. So it says, Jake, man, thanks so much for constantly supporting my work. It makes me feel less alone to know that my weird pixels carry meaning for someone other than just myself. It's also encouraging. This fucking handwriting.
It's artists and doctors.
It's artists and doctors. Listen.
They have handwriting that's very special.
Listen, I'm going to try so hard to read this. Weird pixels carry more meaning for someone other than just myself. It's also encouraging. I just really wanted to say thank you for supporting a stranger. Life has been so fucked up, not just Corona and 2020 and 2021, chaos, but probably since the beginning of time. Life itself is a struggle against meaninglessness and non-existence. This used to terrify me, but I see now that it's liberating. There's no rules, no truths, no meaning, except what we build for ourselves. It may be a fool's errand, but I endeavor a special love and hope, even while the world around us is in flames. Somewhere else, love blossoms and flowers bloom.
That's very nice.
Yes. And this was kind of the thing that made me start supporting more local artists. Mm-hmm. Just even ordering this online and seeing it show up to my house really gave me an idea of like the small impact of just supporting people. And it was the first time ever supporting an artist, buying anything online from anybody. Just having that note and like kind of that reassurance in the pandemic that like we're all in this together, everything's on fire, but like, sometimes things bloom elsewhere. It's YQG and bloom.
And there you go. But the thing is like we'll go to markets and different events and people get so excited that we took the time to go out and see them and support them and, maybe throw stuff up on Instagram and buy stuff. They're what is making our community what it is today.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they don't realize how much that they mean to us as well. And this is probably the heaviest you're ever going to see, me and him.
Yeah, this is the most serious I've ever been in my life. But I did want to share this only for the reason that it is the reason why I started my whole local support journey. If that letter never came to me, if these magazines never came to me, I probably wouldn't have even cared about local, honestly. Like, it's just not something that ever interested me, right? Yeah. But it's less of the value of the actual item itself and more of the aspect of, like, the creation behind it and the people behind it.
And the love
in
making it.
And, like, sure, I can buy something similar at, a big chain store for, quarter of the price or whatever, but it's that special touch to it that adds so much value, right?
It's true.
I do want to mention though, during the pandemic, after the letter that I got, I randomly started commissioning local artists to like draw things, and people on Reddit who like I've never, interacted with them. They were just posting commissions. So this kind of started a spiral of me just commissioning a bunch of people to do local art and like weird stuff. So I have a bunch of commissions in my attic in a box from like local artists that probably don't even know that it was me, at the time. And a Google Drive full of pictures. Like I only had selfies at the time. It was just weird pictures of me in the casino in a mirror or whatever. And I would just send these to people and just be like, hey, can you draw this or whatever? Like, just tell me how much and whatever. So I have probably hundreds of just commissions from artists. And it was all because of this. And it was just like, I just wanted to help people in the pandemic where people were all struggling. And I just wanted to find that one thing to like try to help people. And it was around the same time, like I said, that I was just kind of discovering the value of money. And I was like, $10 at a local business means so much, that could be, the difference between putting food on the table for that night.
Exactly.
To some people, Whereas from before, like I wouldn't even think about it, and I would, waste way more than that in like 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
That's why I think the pandemic was very transformative.
It was.
For Windsor and Essex County,
Yeah.
the way we think, the way we see things, the way we create things, it's really changed. And like you said, the artists and the markets and the makers, and that's why we do what we do.
Exactly.
Our $0 an hour plus benefits jobs.
You're making zero? I'm in the negatives for this job.
I like to support too, like my little sign behind me.
And your little trinkets
And
from
the thing that you gave me, and a few things.
So I got some of these on a market that almost ended my last relationship. It ended for different reasons, but this was a contributing factor probably.
Jake loves going to markets and
I love going to markets.
buying stuff. You got bins of stuff, and he won't give me any more.
Yeah, well, I decorated your whole house.
I know.
My first market I ever went to was the WFCU Center Market. Whatchamacallers, Miranda, you've interviewed her on your show before. I just saw her on Instagram. We did a giveaway at some point for like a bandana or a collar or something like that. And that was just what I was doing on Instagram at the time, was just sponsoring giveaways. So I ended up going to the market because she posted on Instagram and was like, hey, I'll be here. And I was like, oh, that'd be so fun. Like, I told my girlfriend, I was like, let's go, we'll just go see people.
I saw that picture. You had your logo on your face and you were holding up bags of stuff. I was looking at that last night.
Yeah. You creeped my profile before this, so you know what you're talking about.
I was going through it, and then a lot of your 1, 2, 3.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a progression of us, too, because I'm in a lot of it.
And that's why I like archiving them like that, right? Because some people archive it as like, oh, this is food, this is whatever, and this is whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but if you keep it in order and people can just watch through, you can just kind of see like the growth of the whole page, right? Because you can go back to when I first started, and like at first when I started the page, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go up to everybody, introduce myself. Hey, I'm Made In YQG. I want to take pictures of your booth. Like I want to post you on Instagram.
I thought you were gonna say boobs.
I was going to, but but that's what I wanted to do, was just go to this market. Like I saw Miranda was there, and I was just gonna go up to everybody. Hey, can I take a picture of your booth? Like, let me share it on Instagram. Like, this is what I'm trying to do, whatever. And it's given so many opportunities to do amazing things in the community, like charity work and stuff like that. And I'm just so grateful for, the progression of everything.
And all the friends we've made over the last couple of years.
I'm fine without you, but the rest of them are good. Yeah.
And this is a good stopping point for part 1 of my interview with Jake from Made In YQG. Tune in a few days. We will have part 2. We will talk about Jake's charity work, and we'll catch up on some more shenanigans. You guys have a great day, and thank you for joining me for YQG in Blue.